if I feel empty now, I'll feel empty later. And so it's more about, and this is also a challenge, like I have to convince myself of this every day, but it really is all about enjoying the process. If I just focus on the outcome, and I know it's like something that we probably hear on a day-to-day just through Instagram reels and stuff, but it is what works. If you're able to talk yourself into realizing that this process is the only good part of this entire thing, like the outcome is just another day.
All right, so here's something I've been thinking about. When you're starting a business, there's no confusion about your purpose. It's to make money, create stability, and take care of your family. But then one day you realize you've done it. You've created that stability, you have that foundation, and suddenly the thing that's pushing you forward, it disappears. That's what we're figuring out here on the other side of enough. I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs who have hit their financial goals, but they're still searching for something more. We're talking about what business excellence really looks like on the other side. Let's get into it. We're here with Brady. Brady is the founder of Hotbox Sauna. He is a Navy SEAL. Are you a former Navy SEAL, or are you guys like the Marines where you're always a Navy SEAL?
No, we're not. Honestly, from what I've seen throughout the community, usually guys say that they're former. There's no part of yeah, but obviously it's still a tight-knit group. People are proud of their background. Usually they keep it like under wraps, but I recently just came out of the SEAL closet, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it's something I'm proud of. Yeah, I love my background.
So he joins. So I was part of Special Forces community while at Fort Bragg. I was not one of them, but I was with them. And so I'm very familiar with the pipeline and how it works. And at least on the Army side, if you join at 18 and you get in that pipeline, you joined at 18 and you went to Buds immediately?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so you're already cut from a different cloth if you get chosen pretty much at the recruiting station after you take your ASVAB test. You're pretty much, it's very clear that you're top 1% performer. So Brady did that right after high school. And then how many years did you stay in the Navy?
6, that was like the minimum term for my contract.
Okay. Actually, why don't you tell your bio? I don't know why I'm telling it for you. Walk us through your adult life, and then you can get into some family stuff, and then we'll talk business for a while, and then at the last half, we'll get into some questions.
Yeah, so you got the first part of it. I grew up in San Antonio, started to look into special warfare opportunities, like certain roles to fill there. I was looking into the Army and Marine Corps, Navy, but I got lucky, man. I got introduced to a few really cool people, some old guys from like the Vietnam era that were SEALs, and we really just hit it off. I was like really drawn into their stories of just everything about their life and the relationships that they had built with like their friends and some of the places they had gone and the things that they had done and how it like built them. And so I was like looking for that transition as a young kid, really just looking for guidance with how I was going to shape the rest of my life. And that kind of sparked all of that interest. And then I started training for it. I was on my way to college, but then decided that wasn't for me and this is something that I wanted to pursue. And so I dropped everything and gave it a shot. So that was what started that. So I was like 18. I was lucky enough to go straight through the pipeline and not get injured. And then I did SQT, and that was a lot of fun. Just, again, made some really good friends, had some good experiences. And then I went to SEAL Team 2, and then I served for about 4 years at SEAL Team 2. And then I was an instructor at SEAL Team 18, which is like it's a reserve unit, yeah. And so I was able just to work with some of those guys coming in and out of their civilian life and trying to see like whether or not the reserve unit was for me. And I just decided to pull the plug completely and have my independence.
Yeah. I've been active duty and I've also been a reservist, and both are good for different seasons, but I think for an entrepreneur, eventually the benefits the costs outweigh the benefits. So you made that decision pretty quick. Okay, so you leave the military. Did you go through any sort of identity crisis as you're leaving?
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it's very similar to what other people experience. But yeah, so up until I think I was 27 when I got out. And so up until that point, I'd always been like on some sort of team or in school, living with my parents, and then basically told what to do through the military. I was able to grow in a different type of way, but I didn't have that like independent growth. And I definitely struggled for a little bit. It wasn't anything crazy. I just bounced around, really just traveling, trying to enjoy my freedom, just having fun.
Yeah. And then you took a hiatus. I watched the story you have on the website. So his website is thehotboxsauna.com. He's got this kick-ass story on there. It's the best storytelling I think I've seen in a long time. It's really good branding. And he tells his story on there, and that's how I know part of it. Another part is that Brady and I talked last week for a while. But it sounds like you started working on some prototypes for the Hotbox Sauna, and then you took a hiatus, went to filmmaker school, which is probably where you learned how to tell that story so well, and then got back into sauna building.
Yeah,
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and so like when I was in the teams, I'd always like my favorite off time was just like spitballing with the guys, like trying to come up with solutions to things. Like guys were always like rigging out their equipment and stuff. And sometimes if the budget allowed us to explore things that were fresh into the marketplace or stuff that we could like research and develop or help companies research and develop. And I was hooked by that. And even like at a young age, I was just into building things and selling things. I just always wanted to create some sort of business. And I did get to explore that quite a bit, like in the teams, just with like development and stuff. And then I was really inspired by some of the guys that had gotten out and created a product for the SEAL teams to use, like something to better operational readiness or to some type of tool in order to use like day of an operation or anything like that, like telescoping ladders and fifi hooks and stuff like that, and climbing gear. And so I was always like super interested in that because these guys would come in after being in the civilian world for X amount of years and then present their product to the SEAL team solution. And so we got to meet some of those guys like early on. And then, so I knew I always wanted to do something like that. And so the idea, not to jump all over the place, but the idea for the sauna was really like initially I wanted to have a flyaway kit heat therapy solution for the SEAL teams first.
Okay.
And that kind of evolved and sparked the idea. And this was like early on with the sauna trends. And so it still required a lot of education in the marketplace. So it didn't really take off until it was like a little bit more like common knowledge through different podcasts like Joe Rogan, Rhonda Patrick, Andrew Huberman and stuff. And so it was dormant for a while. And so I didn't have a lot of faith in it, but like I was still building my own for like friends and family and stuff when I had gotten out. And then at some point.
So you can fit two of them on a pallet and kind of use a pallet jack, pull it into the C-17, and then they can like wheel it somewhere when they land?
For sure. Yeah,
Okay.
or leave it fully fixed. We can put them on wheels, which we've experimented with just keeping them mobile, like rolling, and having like fully fixed boxes, which is stuff that we've just recently released to on our website and stuff like that as an option for our customers. Before that, it was just like all flat pack. But yeah, the robustness and everything came with the idea of making it fit for the SEAL teams. And then actually, I just moved out here to Virginia Beach, which is where I was stationed, really to rekindle the relationships that I had with the teams here, get them a couple demo units to travel with, and just see how the wear and tear of these units would hold up. And that has helped a lot with our R&D. Like we went from something specific, but we went from like a bolt insert assembly like you would see on like a piece of furniture where it's like a threaded bolt insert to like these extruded aluminum rail systems that are just a lot more robust. It has a continuous chain of contact where the pieces meet one another, and it just makes the assembly that much faster. 15 minutes max. Like you'd really have to try to make it over 15 minutes to assemble one of these things. And so that was kind of the idea, is to keep a module system where if something were to happen to a panel, we can ship that same panel out and they can replace it, but really just like starting with robustness. And then that kind of bled into other things that had really saved our butts in the long run, with starting earlier with putting the robustness first and not releasing it too early.
Yeah, and you guys even experimented with different types of coatings to put onto the wood to make sure that it can withstand any kind of elements, right?
Yeah. So we did, like initially when I was building them in my garage, I was putting a MCT coconut oil I was using a hemp oil as like the finish, and it did really well. But that there was a kind of a gray area there with whether or not like guys in the military or at fire departments would pop on a drug test,
Oh,
being like CBD and
yeah.
stuff, especially it heating up and open up. Obviously, your body's able to receive that a little bit differently. So we went from that to MCT coconut oil, but the idea was to like keep everything as like natural as possible, trying to make the least toxic environment as possible, keep
Right.
it very natural. And so it just goes back to that principle I feel like you and I have learned in the military, which is like KISS, keep everything really simple,
Mm.
easy to fix. Everything's fixable on the sauna. And it's really helped us in the long run because I've seen and just heard of horror stories from cold plunge companies that like faulty chillers they're company killers. So I
Yeah.
wanted a very robust heater system that was redundant. So I experimented with all kinds of traditional heaters, the ones with stones and 110 wiring from 110, and then blending them with the incandescent bulbs. It worked. Only 2 prototypes we had ended up failing. And so that's when I was like, we have to simplify this and make it like as strong as possible. Investing a lot
Yeah.
more in the hardware we use to actually wire our heaters and making the parts like readily available. Because like when COVID kicked off, there was a lot of sauna companies that were able to keep building the structures, but all of the heaters were bought overseas, and so it stalled a lot of companies into actually getting their product out to people. And so I knew like I wanted to make everything we could in-house from scratch.
Yeah, and you guys are now on version 7, right? I actually have yours in my shopping cart. I'm about to check out, but I did want to ask you if you think I would need the MCT coating if it's just going to be in my garage. So that was going to be my question
Yeah,
offline.
first of all, thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. Like we appreciate your support. But yeah, it's not mandatory. We sent every unit out the door with MCT oil on it before, but most saunas aren't delivered with any type of coating. So it really is like preference and use, and you can put really any finish. We recommend one of the 2 or 3 natural coatings, but we just offer it as an option now just to make
Okay.
the base price as minimal as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love your story. I love how you guys are always improving. Your message is just so clear that you just want to. That's how I found you. Is I'm looking at these Costco saunas and I'm thinking, what kind of materials are they using where it heats up, and then I'm just sitting in this hot box, inhaling like all kinds of polymers and plastics and like nasty chemicals. And yours stood out immediately. Actually, I found yours from Rogue's website, which I want to
really?
hear the story and how you got listed there. Because if you guys don't know, for the listeners, Rogue is like the Mercedes of fitness equipment. So somehow Brady got his product listed on Rogue's website, which is really impressive. But that's how I found you, is on Rogue, and your story on how everything's so natural, and then your military background. I just immediately became a huge fan. And the way Brady and I met is he called me. So I signed up for one of their virtual tours with the like, basically they do a Zoom meeting and they show you a sauna, but he calls me instead because he was on the move. And I was asking him, like, is the founder, because I thought it was a customer service rep. I'm like, is the founder Army veteran or Marines? And Brady's, actually, I'm the founder and I was in the Navy. So that's how we hit it off. That's why he's talking here today on this podcast. Going back to my original, let's talk about the story. How did you get connected with Rogue? Because Rogue is the gold standard in the fitness industry. And basically, if you're listed on their website, it means they've already vetted you, they approve of you, and you have your systems down. So why don't you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, I feel really lucky. I've always had Rogue equipment, and they've definitely set the standard for American manufacturing, so that was an honor. But it was actually the first show that we did was the CrossFit Games last year, and we got the smallest booth. It was like 10 grand, way outside of our bootstrap budget, but we just went for it because we knew that we probably wouldn't make any sales, but we knew that we would make some connections. And one of their reps stopped by our booth and was like, man, this is sweet. And one of their guys had actually seen it online, and he'd heard of us, heard of our story. And so he was like, let's stay in touch. Let's see how we can get this on the website. And so that was always a goal for me. I was always like passively, aggressively, like putting the Rogue equipment in the shot with the sauna.
Okay.
Just to show how it blends in the same space. And they inspired a lot of our design, like the leveling feet on the Echo bike and everything. Like it had just all of their equipment. I've never had any issues with their equipment. And so I was definitely like inspired by that level of robustness and quality, and how they build everything too, and how they partner with other American companies to get their products, smaller companies like ours, get their products out to their followers. And so they've been really easy and cool and very supportive to work with.
I love it. So how does it work? So someone buys it through the Rogue website, and are you paying Rogue like a commission?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So they take care of the shipping. They'll basically just send us a purchase order, and we'll fulfill it. And we have a mutual commission-based thing where it works for both of us.
And then, like, how many orders are through Rogue versus through your organic website?
Honestly, not as many as I thought there would be. But when we partnered with Rogue, our lead times were ridiculous. Like, our backlog was still from 2024 holiday season. And so I would imagine we had a pretty big bounce rate because our lead times were around like 14 to 16 weeks. And so we did get quite a few, but not anywhere close to what we got organically.
And then now you're down. That's actually what motivated me to go through with the purchase, is now your lead times are down to 6 to 8 weeks, right?
That's right, yeah. We're about to actually bump them up just a little bit, because it seems, especially last year, we were able to get them down to 4 weeks. And when we did, that was like our biggest marketing lever, was just being able to make them faster.
Yeah.
And so typically we see sales increase about 60% with a 4 to 6 week lead time. So that's our goal, is to get it down as far as possible. So that's why we're currently expanding. It's been in the works for about a year now, but the goal has always been to expand to hit the demand that we have. It's been very challenging.
So in theory, okay, so there's always essentially a waiting list of people who have already paid. In theory, even if you got that lead time can change no matter what, and you always have a backlog of customers who have already paid you. Does that sound right?
Yes. Yeah. So basically the group of people that bought in at the 14 to 16 week lead time, there will be some towards the tail end of those orders that we'll be able to deliver sooner. Okay. Just like anything else, kind of have to make the call at some point. And we had just we're catching up to the point where we can release those lead times, and it's really because of how we're expanding. So we just expanded to do 2 different manufacturing facilities in the U.S. So now there's a total of 3. So we have our organic manufacturing in Reno, which is where everything has been coming out of thus far, or at least for this year. We've traveled quite a bit. We've moved locations once. We had to move from Wisconsin. That's where we really started out, like our first batch of orders. And really just I moved up to Wisconsin. I had some connections up there, just some friends that were in construction and manufacturing. And
where at in Wisconsin?
In Portage. It's just outside of Madison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got family all there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's a manufacturing hub. There's factories everywhere and a lot of really well-built humans that work hard, and a lot of craftsmanship experience up there. And so we'll be going back up that way, like basically where we started, to expand our operations. And so it's always been like a battle trying to determine like what is the best fit for manufacturing for these saunas, because they do require some TLC. And so you can't really, it's possible, but we didn't want to turn into a bigger company necessarily with our own manufacturing. We wanted to keep it small and flexible and not require any middle management or anything, or invest too much in our own manufacturing, spread out. And it makes sense for us logistically as well, just because we're able to save on shipping, because shipping is a huge part of the cost because these things are so heavy. So that was the intent there.
So you guys which ones out of the 3 you're using right now, 2 of them are outsourced to a third-party company that you've taught how to build the product?
Exactly, yeah. So that's what we're working on right now. We haven't officially sent those saunas out yet, but they have broke ground. About each manufacturing facility has built about 10 saunas each. And that's where I have been over the last 8 months, is basically going back and forth to each manufacturing facility. And it took us a while to establish those relationships and the capabilities. It's a hybrid system that we created, and because of everything revolves around CNC machining. And so it is very repeatable. So we're able to take our files, and they're able to make the same sauna essentially with down to the millimeter. and everything else is just through finished carpentry experience. And between the two establishments, they're far beyond our capabilities and experience when it comes to carpentry. And so they've been around for a while. Like one's in North Carolina in Burlington, and they're a furniture manufacturing place, and they do like high-end furniture. So their quality control is very high. And that was just like one of the main things that we were stressing, just finding certain people. Some of them didn't align, or we didn't think that they had the capabilities to withhold our standards. And so that was always a fear of expanding. But so far, it's just been great. Like, these people are awesome to work with.
I love it. So I'm trying to picture how it works. You told me on the call that you guys are selling about one a day. And so I'm imagining at 14 to 16 week lead time, you have a certain amount of demand. And then you said there's a 60% increase in demand when you lower that lead time. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
To 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks. Is there, I'm imagining at compounds where if you could get that lead time down even less, could demand shoot up through the roof to where it's actually like a semi big problem where you have way too many orders? Like, it just seems so hard to balance manufacturing, like how many you can spit out versus how many orders you have. And then you have this floating variable, which is lead time, which seems highly volatile, like in terms of its influence on demand. How do you handle that? It seems really hard.
It is, honestly. It's a huge challenge, and there's a lot of moving parts. But that's what we've been up against this entire time, is not like having too many orders. We're always fearful of whiplash, and it takes a lot of communication with our customers, which we're getting a lot better at. We have dropped the ball on communication with our customers just because of the level of inquiries for us has been overwhelming. But now we're beefing up our CRM systems, our operations, all the experiences there now. And so we're basically positioning ourselves for this next sauna season, which is usually starts around September, and then it just gets crazier through the holidays. And so that's what we've been doing now, and a lot of it because we're 100% customer supported. So like, we don't have any investors or any seed money or anything like that to back us with. We're not against it. We just have been trying to keep it as organic as possible. But the hardest part has been able to create the sales with that 14 to 16 week window, enough of them to buy the material, prepping us for when we do expand with these manufacturers. And so we're predicting a certain date this month that we'll be basically going from building 10 saunas a week with our organic manufacturing to 30 saunas a week across the board. And so that's why we're able to right now offer lower lead times, which we weren't able to before. But yeah, it's extremely challenging.
Okay, so maybe the math is, maybe I'm oversimplifying it. So if you triple the amount of saunas you can spit out, does that cut your lead time down by a third?
Yes.
Or
roughly.
Down to a third? So, but then it boosts your demand.
It should. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're aiming for. And we'll just ride the wave and reposition as we grow. It's all growing pains and have to play pickup basketball. But that's the idea, is to grow as much as we can, to build as many saunas as we can.
Because that's what my story was. Is I spoke with you. It was 14 to 16 weeks, and I'm like, that's kind of a long time. But then you guys made some tweaks, and then this week you announced it's now 6 to 8 weeks right now?
It is, yeah.
And then for me, I'm like, oh, that's like cut that time in half. I'm totally down for that. And so I imagine you just have this just really complicated slinky problem where just demand is all over the place, and cash forecast. I do cash forecasting for my own business, and it's hands down the hardest part of my job is making sure I have enough capital for the amount of deals that I have. If I have too much capital, it's wasteful. If I don't have enough capital, it's really stressful. So I just imagine you have a third variable or even a fourth variable in there that I don't have to deal with. And I'm just imagining how complex it is. So it's impressive.
It is a bit daunting, honestly. That's our biggest threat, is how many orders that we have in the backlog, because our customers buy full price up front. And so a lot of that, like, we We hit a snag with just delays with the supply chain, everything happening politically, and then we also had to make a move from Wisconsin to Reno. And so that came with its delays, like getting started basically from scratch in Reno. But it was worth the move for us. And so we basically just had to beg our customers to stay with us and keep the faith and just take care of them with everything that we could add into the sauna within reason, within budget. And we've been very lucky with the amount of support that we've had from our customers. And that comes through good communication, good storytelling, everything to just help them trust us that we have their best interests at heart. Like they come first. And
Right.
with expansion, that's really helped us is like people keeping the faith and retaining those customers. If not, we would already be done. For sure. Yeah, we've been backed up quite a bit and like we haven't been able to deliver. It's extremely frustrating, but not being able to deliver on time as we've expanded has been the worst thing. And it's obviously pretty common with manufacturing, people making products, especially in the States, and making it the right way and using the right materials and not rushing anything. Because one thing we definitely can't have is a bunch of returns. And so if the quality drops, that's just equally the same level of threat. And so it's a delicate balance. If honestly, this is my first business, so I had never imagined it to be this challenging, but it's been a really good education for me. I would never get into manufacturing in the future. I say that now, but I don't know. I have a sick relationship with it. Like I do love it. Because it's hard.
You like to be tortured?
Yeah, a little bit. And I like the camaraderie that comes from like construction type atmosphere and building things and getting them out to people. And then obviously it being a wellness brand, wellness company, it's our customers have been, I would imagine, I haven't worked with any other type of customer, but I would imagine like our customers are a lot easier to work with than anything else.
They're not stressed out because they've got your sauna to de-stress in. So you're working with all the most calm people ever. I was going to ask how you deal with all the stress, but I bet it's you. One of the answers is you use your own product.
Yeah, definitely.
You do have 5 different versions in your personal house?
I actually cycle through them, so I usually give them away once I need another one to use for marketing or to test out, to really stress test or whatever. I have the original one that I built in my garage, the OG. It's pretty rough. It's a ghetto little unit, but it got the job done, and it's exactly what I needed for heat therapy. And my wife and I always joke about it, but like each sauna inspired the next one by me sitting in each one and like really taking it all in.
Thinking about it.
Yeah, thinking about the next one, meditating in the sauna. And so that's just been fun to experience.
Have you been approached by any kind of venture capital companies looking to buy a part of your company once you guys are ironed out some of the systems you're working on?
Yeah, all the time, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, and it's really, I would say most of it, maybe half of it's like kind of scammy or whatever, like anything that you get like through an email. But there have been quite a few people, which we're super grateful for. But again, I just want to keep it as controlled as we can. Yeah.
You told me over the phone you're having so much fun that you have no plans to exit anytime soon, and you're really just looking to build the highest quality sauna you can with the best team you can. And I know you're just really enjoying that. I do wonder though, the venture capital companies, maybe I'm using the wrong term. I don't know. Private capital, some sexy Wall Street firm that wants to buy your company. I wonder how they would value it. And if that order backlog, if you knew the equation, maybe you already know it, but I wonder if the value of your company fluctuates based on how many orders you have and how much lead time you have. And then that's like another thing that could stress you out because you're like, oh, my company is worth X amount now, but if we mess up this one thing, then it cuts the value in half. And I just imagine like you've got all these numbers swimming around in your head.
Honestly, that's been the best part about building the team with experiences, because I'm not experienced. Like, I'm a creative guy. I love building things. I love designing things. Like, I keep a sketch pad handy for any type of prototyping or concepts. I love like high concept stuff. That's what I really enjoy. I love storytelling. I love the creative side of filmmaking and everything. And I know I'm a bit of a child when it comes to that space, just because I have to stay creative and stay fluid. And so like just recently, like I had always, up until now, I've always been looking for that kind of like parental guidance with experience when it comes to actually building the business and creating
Yeah.
the team, basically to say, no, man, chill out. Like we can't go off on this detour right now. We have to stick to what we're doing and fulfill our orders because the budget is XYZ. Or so that's been super helpful. But for me, I try not to stress about it a lot. Of course, I worry about the cash flow and everything, and
Right.
retaining employees in manufacturing and keeping customers happy. But I try and keep a clean headspace as much as I can now, more than I have before. Before it was very heavy and like trench warfare. It was just
Yeah.
like anything you could do to survive, any
Right.
waking hour of the day. It was just like calling people, and the amount of material that goes into our saunas is insane. Like we've done the best to keep it as simple as possible, but there is so much that goes into it. We have so many different suppliers, and trying to keep everything here brings its own challenges, but it just all boils down to relationships. And that's been a huge part of our storytelling too, is that even with our manufacturers that we're partnering with and our suppliers that provide us hardware and wood and wool insulation, they're able to hop online and see exactly who we are because we cover every nook and cranny, and we're able to establish that trust really quickly in them, and so they help prioritize our orders in a time of need. And so that's been huge for us. But just across the board, just trying to build the best relationships.
I love it. And the website is so sleek and it looks great. In terms of your leadership, so you're in your early 30s.
I am, yeah, I'm 33.
So a lot of your team members they're older than you?
They are, yeah.
And is there any kind of, because in the army, I was an army officer, and in my early 20s, it was so weird at first to be the boss of people older than me. My platoon sergeant was 44. I was 22 at the time. And it took me like a year or two to get comfortable with that. Did you have to go through that with Hotbox, or did you learn that in the military to be the youngest one in the room at sometimes?
That was definitely a lot more challenging for me in the teams, like in the SEAL teams. After I got done with my first platoon, it was hard to gain the respect of older guys that were in their first platoon. But this is a lot different. And really, I think it boils down to a mutual respect. I love teams. And so like I put them first financially and just like on a day-to-day with support. And that serves me in that regard. They respect me just out of default. And if they don't, or if there's like misalignment, we're really quick to just pull the Band-Aid off if it's not working out. I feel like a lot of companies, from what I've seen, and from some consulting companies that I've worked with, is that they, like one of your questions that you sent me was like basically like work-life balances. I don't necessarily believe in that because I'm so invested in this like on a personal level, and so it really is like my work life is very meshed, and so I have to really trust the people that I'm with and want to be with them because it takes us so many hours in the day to manage this. If they're misaligned, then it's a quick way to send them on to their next chapter because they're just not going to work out with us. I feel like a lot of companies, they'll compartmentalize work and life and tolerate some of those misalignments and just deal with it just to get the work side done with. And so that was a big one for me.
Yeah, I've had to let go of an employee before, and for me, I delayed that probably 6 months longer than what I should have, because I really believed that with the proper mentorship, she could change. But at some point, you have to be a little bit cynical and just know that most people don't change, especially if they're like in the last half of their life and they still have certain patterns that they refuse to address. So that's hard. I want to be the optimist and trust that they can change and they want to change. But at the same time, how long do you hold on to that hope and allow them to suck the energy out of the company? That's hard.
It's very hard. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And it's heartbreaking, like doing it, because I feel like I do have a lot of empathy for other people. And so like we've given, just in the shop space as an example, like we've given a lot of opportunity to younger people coming in to learn skills. And it's always something with the younger generation, I feel, or it has been. And now most of our employees that we work with in the shop space are 40 and above, and they're just a different generation. They show up on time and they're willing to work and not have any drama in the room and help one another. And so
Yeah.
It's been really hard, like letting go of a few people and just misalignment with potential partnerships and stuff like that, where I always lean on the side of generosity and being fair, but it's hard when people don't live up to what you expect of them or what's fair in return. By default, I just want to take care of everyone. I want everyone to have some skin in the game with this and take ownership of it and wake
Yeah.
up with the same level of passion and intensity that I have. Less push of a leadership position, I feel like, is I don't feel like I'm a natural leader, more so just a good teammate, and so I really try to keep it as natural as possible.
And the advantage you have in your message to your team is, hey, we're literally changing the world. We're creating healthy people. I was going to say adults, but I guess kids can use it too. We're creating healthy people, and these people go off into their life and they're happier. They love their spouses better. They love their kids better. They perform better at work. They make society more productive. These products are good for the environment. They provide jobs. Even just transportation, getting it places, those guys are getting paid based on moving the product. It's really a scenario where everyone's winning. And you guys are American made, right? It's helping the country's economy. It's just such an easy, I feel like other industries have a harder time communicating like the good they're doing in the world, but for you it seems like a softball pitch.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's like we're very proud of it, and that's the big difference there. Say down to our employees in the manufacturing space, like they come from construction backgrounds where it's like they're working with other people to finish a project on a house, like varying levels of passion and craftsmanship and quality and stuff. And so there's always tension in construction with that. Like a lot of misalignment with, man, I'm doing like all of this work to complete this banister or the set of stairs or whatever. And that guy's like over there hanging the drywall like garbage. And now my work is a reflection of his work. And I don't even know that
Yeah.
guy. We have to like work together. And so a lot of them come from that background. And within the first couple of weeks, they're like, dude, this is awesome. We get to hone in on this premium product. We get to finish it out for someone that's investing in themselves. And we're big on like sharing the feedback, more so now than we were before. We slacked off on it too much, but you get a bunch of good feedback, and the only thing that sticks out is we didn't include some hardware in a package, and we're like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Or there's some shipping issue where a sauna got damaged, and we're like, damn it. But we now try, and every single message that we get from people that's, this has completely changed my life, or this is improving my sleep quality, or this saved my dad's life or my mom's life or my son's life, putting certain things in remission, aiding with certain treatments like chemotherapy and stuff like that. It's given us a lot of purpose in that regard, because usually most of the people buying this are trying to work on something. They're trying to perform better in their jobs or work on their businesses by biohacking, like fulfill their wellness compound like your garage. It's so easy to work for these people because every now and then we'll get a bad apple just like anything else, but for the most part it's so easy. Like they're very excited when they get it, and if anything it's just been frustrating for them to wait for it, but once they get it, we get that text message that's like, man, I'm blown away, it was well worth the wait.
For me, it's a little easier to wait because it's summer here. I guess it's summer everywhere, but I love it. And that's the first time I've heard you say this is a wellness compound. I think I'm going to use that because I sent Brady a photo. I've got my motorcycle. I've got this brand new Rogue squat rack with barbell and bench, and I can do all the basic compound movements. I've got this stand-up desk here. I've got this walking treadmill, and then the next room over, I've got the cold plunge, and then your sauna actually will go right down here. You can't see it on the camera, but
Nice.
I'm super excited. Okay, let's get into some questions. I sent you a list of some things we could talk about. I go through these with most guests. Some guests, we have more time. Others, we spend the whole time talking about just the stuff that comes up. Okay, so I can say with high amount of certainty you probably have not gotten bored yet in this business. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it does get monotonous, rinsing and repeating everything of me being more of a creative type of person. Like I try and be very aware of that shiny object syndrome. And whenever I feel like I'm getting bored, and this is something that was passed down from my mentors, thankfully, it's like whenever you feel bored, start working on your systems. There's always something to improve. You can't just start on the next thing. And that's typically how companies kind of start getting coming off the rails a little bit.
I think my weakness in that area is I really don't enjoy building systems. I like starting things and I like talking to people. I like sending money, but I don't like working on that back end stuff. So eventually I'll need some sort of COO type character who a little more introverted, wants to nerd out on that stuff to really maximize the growth in that area. Okay. So just trying to pick out the questions that are applicable to you because everyone I interview is in a different season. Just so you know, for me, I don't know if I've told you. So I work in the vacant land niche. We lend money for mostly land flips and land developments. So a lot of my guests are in the land business or in real estate as a whole. And I'm branching out. I'm talking with Derek Sivers. I don't know if you know him. He's a famous author similar to Tim Ferriss. Wow. And got a few others on the list that I'm really excited for. You talked about work-life balance. Why don't you talk about how does it work with your wife? So what is she up to? And has there been some friction or conflict over how involved this business is? What does that look like?
Definitely. And really it was just initially because we're both learning this together for the very first time. And so my wife and I got together after I was out of the military. So she hadn't really seen me this dedicated to something before. And so I always had an idea of what it takes to succeed or how much dedication is necessary and how much focus and obsession. And so that was a bit jarring for her. It was a bit jarring for both of us. And so when this took off, it was really it went from no traction to one of the local influencers in Austin helping me promote our product. One of the second or third that I made in my garage. And one of the videos that he posted went viral. And so it was before we were set up. I had a website that I built myself on Squarespace. And so the level of inquiries, we didn't have a price yet. So that really flooded a lot of inquiries and questions on when it would be available, what the price was at and everything. And so that's when I knew. I was like, oh, wow, it was like a drug. I was fully hooked. I was like, finally, this is something that I can sink all of my efforts into. Mm-hmm. It's going to be worth it. And it's just everything aligned, everything we were just talking about, the purpose, the idea of building everything here, creating jobs. And so I just all of a sudden out of nowhere, trying to find something I could really sink my teeth into. It went from really feeling still lost and trying things out and failing and trying again and all of that. I was a bit depressed and not happy with my current state. And then this just popped off and I was it was all a matter of how fast can I get this done and how big can I build this and how.
When was that? How long ago? What year?
That was 2 years ago. So we really started, or it was about 2.5 years ago that it really launched off. And it's been about 4 years altogether of me just trying it and failing. And
so this has really exploded in an exponential way.
Yeah, I would say so. And that's been our biggest challenge, super grateful for the challenge, but is meeting that peak of interest and demand. That's been all of it. So I've had to learn very quickly. And so in the beginning for my wife and I, it was really hard because my level of attention, how much I was gone, because I had to move from my garage. I was on the fence about starting it in Texas, locally in Austin. That's where I was living at the time. I'm from San Antonio. And so it wasn't fast enough. I actually didn't have as many connections in Texas as I did in Wisconsin. And so that looked like the quickest way to get to market first. And I knew that because the design was original and unique, that it was only a matter of time before someone scooped it up before we could get this out to people and tell our story and start the first version of it. And so I was gone a lot. I was gone 3 months at a time up in Wisconsin, just shaking out the manufacturing, R&D, and trying to juggle everything. And my wife was very supportive, but eventually it comes to a head. It depends. I always pushed it right towards the end with every episode of dedication and obsession that I've had with this. I've always pushed it to the very end with her, but it's also her like understanding the level of support that I need because this is a family company, because this is a wellness company. I'm not just trying to like pump and dump a business. This is my passion. And so she saw that in me. She saw the level of dedication that I was putting towards this, and I hadn't had that before. So she was very happy for me, but it was just a balance of being a responsible husband and dog dad, but also giving this everything I got, especially like in the first phase of it when it's like a crying baby pooping on itself. So it just requires a different level of focus.
Is she involved in it, or is she, because my wife is not involved at all, and I think it works best that way, but some married couples, they work together in the business. How does it work with you guys?
No, she's not involved like at an operational level. My wife is a nurse practitioner, so she does offer some medical guidance for some of our customers and some of our partners. But if anything, she's very helpful, and we work well together, just meeting people and establishing relationships. We bounce well off of one another, and she's very reliable in that sense. But she has her own profession, but it's all in line. It's all in line with who we are, and so that's really the main thing. Is like this isn't anything out of her wheelhouse completely. She understands it. She gets the data and everything. She helps me with some of the like newslettering stuff that we put out to people when it comes to some of the peer-reviewed articles and stuff like that. She's able to review it opposed to just putting it
because of her medical experience.
Yeah. So just giving that a human touch opposed to just sending everything through ChatGPT. She's actually able to like put the highlighter to paper and dig things out where it like, and then make it make sense to me. So she's been helpful in that regard. And then other than that, just supporting the house and the dogs while I'm gone, and just being a trooper.
I love it. I did want to ask you mentioned something that kind of sparked my interest. How does it work in terms of protecting your design? Do you have patents? Are patents a waste of time? How does that world work? 'Cause I have no experience there.
I don't have any experience before this, but early on when I launched this, I had some really good advice from people who did have experience, but they basically they laid it out for me as the patent won't necessarily be something that you can use to protect your design, but it will be valuable in the event that you do end up selling this one day and selling it to someone that has much deeper pockets to protect the design, and it just adds value to the company. And so we did get the patent early on for 2 of our sauna designs and our heater. That was really the main thing, but it is being copied, and that's something that I've had to figure out how to cope with.
Yeah.
Because we haven't gotten any recognition from those people. We've actually reached out to them, like trying to help them realize what they're doing wrong, because it all boils down to safety and people, and it's the health and wellness space as a whole for those that are very active in the space and not just trying to make money is a very like cohesive group. It's very small. And we always have looked up to companies like Sisu Saunas that have a really good culture, good people, good values, and everything like that. But there are so many just
sketchy
Costco saunas and people that are looking to copy our website verbatim and copy our design and do it.
Is Sweatbox one of them? Because they have, because that's how I first saw the design. They must have pumped a bunch of money into marketing. And then after research, I realized that your company is actually the original. It's Sweatbox is the copycat.
Yeah, and it's been like dealing with that. We haven't like really made an effort to expose them or anything, and mainly because I've reached out to them only to get some like weird ChatGPT responses, and it's just been for me because this is like my passion, my artwork. Just like a comedian doesn't want his like jokes stolen.
Yeah. It's probably a Chinese company.
From what I've gathered, yes. I don't know.
Like I was just in China, and mimicking good designs is totally the playbook. And over there, it's not seen as unethical. It's seen as smart. Like, why wouldn't you mimic someone else's design?
And
so if you're getting like just weird, like it's clear that somebody put it into AI to get a response. I don't think it's an American company.
Yeah, honestly, I have been able to like focus less on that. Initially, I was like,
"You're annoyed."
Yeah, so annoyed. But just trying to tell myself that it's like the highest form of flattery. but it also
Yeah.
pisses me off because this is like our livelihood. Like I care for everyone on this team, and if there's any
Hmm.
threat, like the guys that I love that are building these things and the people that are building this company with me, I just naturally want to go to bat for everyone.
The good news is the copycats, I think it's hard. It would be hard for a US company to copy your authenticity and your message and your it's just I think you guys will have you still have your little corner of sacred territory where like the copycats can be out of the country and everyone knows that they might not be using the best materials and it's not as safe. And I just visited 8 different factories in China in April, and some of them had modern, safe conditions, and then others were like you picture it in the movies. There's like black smoke and unhealthy
Yes.
conditions and no safety standards, no helmets. And these workers are living in, they call them dorms, but they're almost like slave quarters. And what's the difference between a worker in China that barely makes enough money to eat and a slave? I guess a worker could quit, but then they have nowhere to go because these factories are in the middle of nowhere. So I think what you guys are doing is ethical. It's good for the environment. It's good for people. It's good for this country. We talked
I
about
thought that was a really,
patents.
really cool experience. I would love to do that one day. I have
It was
just
so
grown
cool.
obsessed with just touring manufacturing spaces, and I've just really been passionate about like lean manufacturing and everything that's I feel like in Japan like that's where the standard is set, and there's a lot of things that like China builds that are far superior than how we could build them and a lot faster in the right conditions, and then there's
Yeah.
unethical ways of building here in the States too. It is like there's a gray area there. Like they're much better at making obviously software and hardware to support software and say like light bulbs or anything like that at scale. It's not something that I feel like I just culturally I don't think Americans are cut out for certain types of work like that. They're able to really succeed at.
The irony is that like the assembly line process started in America, what, 100 years ago, and then we've kind of lost the art. What
Yeah.
one thing that I would say my biggest takeaway from that trip is I realized that almost so your story is unique where you actually developed your own product, but for most of the physical product world and also the service world as well, white labeling is way more common than what I realized. And I mean that in a good way where it just opened my mind to realize that let's say I want to sell a widget. I don't have to invent the widget myself. I just have to find a company already building it that's okay with me slapping my label on top of it. And then I've got the widget. And you can do that. You can white label labor, right? If you have a graphic design business, you pay your employees $35 an hour and you're billing at $100 an hour, right? You're white labeling labor. And then what I do with my business is I white label money where I fund deals, right? I send 50 grand for a land flip in Texas. But if I don't have the 50 grand, I take it from a doctor or a lawyer who has the money sitting there and I pay them a cut from my cut and I'm essentially white labeling their money, right? So for me, that trip just opened my mind to realize how many possibilities are out there and you don't need to be creative. You're creative, Brady, but someone like me, I just want to follow a list of instructions and just do things by the book. And I have joy in not in creating something, but just in building a business that like produces consistent results.
Yeah, I think that a lot of, to your point, and this is coming from no experience, but just like there's a lot of things that don't require like this huge like backstory or emotional connection. And then there's other things like that, like our saunas, they require like a little bit more TLC, a little bit more passion. That's people want
Yeah.
to buy something that like serves them. It's like also a mental aid station, like a wellness sanctuary type thing where they want to feel that energy that we put into it, and that's what leads them to buy our product. We're not for everyone, and some people do go with our knockoff version, but I think that's a good thing. I don't think that there's necessarily like a threat. I think that's a facade when it comes to competition. Like I'm reminded of it every time my plane's about to land. If I'm taking a commercial flight, like how the sea of houses in Serbia when you fly over,
Yeah.
like, so many freaking people
Oh,
We
yeah.
would never ever hit the demand for saunas. It's just a matter of how good our marketing is and how good our product is, and just stay true to who we are, and we'll grow. And we don't have to hit this huge spike. We don't have to shoot everyone down. But it is nice when it's all kind of a cooperation feel,
Right.
which is what I always strive for. I enjoy business. I think my next endeavor, I can't focus on what that is right now, but it would be something like that I could pull out of a rule book and then put what I know as far as everything I've learned, but still use like a rule book, so to speak, when it comes to storytelling and marketing and putting the customer first. Like that's all things that work. That's part of the recipe. But I always think about putting everything I know into a service type business and
Yeah.
how well that would do. Something that's like needed, like septic services or plumbing or trash
hmm
services and stuff like that. So that's always been interesting to me.
I think once we realize that there's such a blue ocean out there for whatever service or product we sell, and we're pretty much never going to hit market saturation, it really opens up our mind to not feeling like our competitors are actually our competitors. They're our collaborators. And I trained, I have a good friend that essentially, with my permission, he mimicked my business model. And I trained him, I coached him, and it's all been very positive. But he actually just he got interviewed on the biggest podcast in our space. And part of me was like, man, he's like stomping my territory a little bit. And that's a very brief and fleeting moment and thought that I had. And you just realize that there's so much opportunity. He's never going to be in a corner of the market where he's taking customers or clients away from me. And he's going to hit he's about 2 years behind me in his business's development or maturity. And he's going to eventually hit the same glass ceilings that I've hit. And him and I can collaborate and figure out how to get through those things together. It's almost like having a business partner where you can share your best ideas and help each other, but you're not like sharing profits. You don't have to work in the same business, but you get to have the benefits of the synergy, which is awesome. Sounds like you've realized that as well. Like you said, you fly in an airplane, you look at all the houses, and maybe 1 out of 100 houses have a sauna in them.
Right.
So you guys have hit 1% market capacity. It's just such a blue ocean. It's so encouraging. And once entrepreneurs, if you're listening to this and you're struggling with being concerned about competitors, just know that it's really not a big deal. Just because there's so much out there for everyone. Everyone can feast at the same table, and there's still food left over at the end of the feast.
It's a really hard thing to try and suppress.
Yeah.
It's a constant for me. And it just requires a lot of work because it's your baby and you made that connection with someone, and it's hard. The idea pops into my head all the time about competition and stuff, but I'm constantly trying to remind myself of that. And like in this case, to your point, what would look like competition and someone that took our design it actually landed you here. They actually did marketing for us. And so
That's
there's
true.
cooperation there with just that default. And it's
Right.
just a matter of who wants what. Do you want the cheaper version? Totally understandable if that's the route you want to take. I've always just erred on the side of buy once, cry once, buy something with quality that's not going to break on you, and invest in the customer service that you're going to get back and the vision. And now more than ever, I'm like, when I look at products, I'm like, okay, who are these people and do they support our domestic supply chain if it is a type of product like that? Because that's just like what I'm more passionate about now, me personally, and that drives a lot of my decision making when I'm purchasing something.
I love it. We've actually haven't gone through a lot of these questions. That's not a bad thing. This is a question I like to ask because I feel like we ping pong. I think men do this more extreme than women, but we ping pong between extremes where we feel like totally overstimulated and stressed. And then the other extreme is we feel bored and understimulated. The question is, how much risk and challenge do we need in life to feel alive? You're a Navy SEAL. You jumped out of. How many jumps do you have?
Honestly, I forgot. I don't really.
So you have a lot.
I did quite a few. Yeah, more than I wanted. I wasn't very passionate about jumping out of.
Static line, or did you go to Halo school?
I did all three. Yeah, so I did the static line first, and then military free fall, and then that also included halo and hey-ho jumps.
Okay. So you've done all of it. So I was a paratrooper, and you and I we had a similar lifestyle in our 20s where, fast motorcycles, loud guns, landed in trees with parachutes. And then now we're entrepreneurs and we take massive risks financially, but there's not really a lot of risk like to our personal safety. So I think this is a good question for you. How much risk and challenge do you feel like you need to feel alive? And do you think that will change, let's say, in 30 years?
Honestly, I've never been the like adrenaline junkie type. That's most of my friends have been that way. Like they took their experience from free fall school. They wanted to take it a step further in base jump. I've always been a little bit timid of super high risk situations when I was in. Like I just didn't go out of my way to try. I did the job and what needed to get done, but I'd be lying if I said I enjoyed jumping out of an airplane at night. It goes against everything in your brain, but it's obviously overcoming those challenges that make you a little bit harder and better and able to overcome like other ones that aren't as relevant. So I think if anything, like the SEAL teams definitely gave me like a different relevance scale when it comes to like risk.
Right.
And so with this, I know that this isn't life threatening. As long as your needs are met as far as like survival, I feel like more people should take risk in business because it's not that risky. And
right.
You just put all of your energy into it and you follow some sort of rule book on success, you're going to make it just by default through time. And I feel like I feel most alive when I'm building something, when I'm creating anything, whether it's like designing something on paper or getting that thought in out of left field where it's just, boom, this is awesome. I can't wait to like write this down and build it in like a physical form. And I can't wait to tell everyone about it. That's when I turn into a kid. I feel the most alive in like a creative space. But we all die at the end of the day, and some sooner than others. And so I was offered that experience in the military. Some people I was around, I think they died young, and it was somewhat tragic, but they were also doing what they loved to do. They were risking it all, and so they died happy, and if anything, they died with a few lives under their belt.
Yeah.
So I've always felt that way. Business failure isn't necessarily death. There's always another shot if you believe in yourself. So if you're confident and you believe that you can take everything that you learned from that failure and put it into the next thing, then that's success to me. But of course, fail.
That's an interesting way to frame it, where because of our military background, we know that the rock bottom is actually death. And as a business owner, the rock bottom is like your ego gets bruised. You're still gonna be under. You're not gonna get rained on. You're still gonna eat 3 meals a day. You're not gonna shiver at night in some hole in the ground. Like the rock bottom as a business owner is still better than your worst day in the military, which is I think it's a healthy way to frame it for the veterans at least.
Yeah.
Like
it's a good way
literally, if you go bankrupt, literally it's still better than shivering in a hole at 3 a.m. in a forest that's raining.
Yeah, and that's what we see is so trendy nowadays, which is awesome to see, like people putting themselves electively in those positions to
do
something really hard. Like our chief financial officer, Whitney Dutton, she's incredible. She travels across the country to run 100-milers. Like she is obsessed with running long distances because she like taps into a different reality. She gets to experience this mock Hell Week equivalent from what I have been able to relate it to. Hearing from her experiences from that, it's very like similar. And so it's really cool to see people proactively trying to find that for themselves, and not, if the military isn't for them or something extreme like wildland firefighting or something like that isn't necessarily like in line with like their lifestyle or whatever, but going after some of the harder physical challenges now. It's just a really cool culture that is starting to build in the United States or across the world.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll wrap it up. Let me look here. We've talked about kind of work-life balance. We've talked about marriage. What if Yeah, I'm just trying to pick out which questions apply to you because you're on it. You're at the extreme of a spectrum right now where I feel like you're taking a lot of risk. You're very busy. A lot of these guys that I'm interviewing, they've hit a point in their careers where their business, and I'm there right now, where their business has a lot of momentum. They're coasting and they're like wondering what's next. And they're wondering, hey, do I want to get busy again? And what are my priorities? Do you have the fear? Do you have the fear, what if I achieve everything and I still feel empty?
Yeah, that was an interesting question. I feel like honestly, if I feel empty like right now, then I'm gonna feel empty later. I experienced this using the SEAL teams as my only example because that's basically where I was raised, and that's really
Right.
the only intense experience I've had aside from this. But like when I graduated Bud's training, it was very like anticlimactic. Like that was unexpected for me. Like it was a proud moment for my family, but with like the friends that I had gone through training with, it was just another day for us, and it was like our journey had just began, or we're going to the next chapter. And so I feel if I feel empty now, I'll feel empty later. And so it's more about, and this is also a challenge, like I have to convince myself of this every day, but it really is all about enjoying the process.
Yeah.
If I just focus on the outcome, and I know that's like something that we probably hear on a day to day just through Instagram reels and stuff, but it is what works. If you're able to talk yourself into realizing that this process is the only good part of this entire thing, like the
Right.
outcome is just another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that takes a lot of intentional practice, and it's not easy, but it's necessary to succeed in happiness and being fulfilled.
Did you have that moment as a Navy SEAL where you went into a funk because I don't know if you spent your entire childhood dreaming of this, of becoming a Navy SEAL, but did you have this moment where you're like, okay, I'm at the pinnacle of like military service. I'm at the ivory tower. Because I felt like that when I was attached to tier one, can't say the name, but I was attached to like the cool guy unit, right? They wear civilian clothes. They hop on the airplane at 3 a.m. They go to some foreign country, they kill a bad guy, save the hostages, and then they're back by dinner. And I remember feeling, okay, this is this is the pinnacle moment of my career in the military, and it just didn't feel, it didn't like have the oomph that I would have expected. Did you feel like that in the as a Navy SEAL?
Definitely, yeah. And I feel like most guys do, if they're being honest. But yeah, I guess in short, it was
Yeah,
pretty anticlimactic. And it was like I was at SEAL Team 2, and so like really my options as far as advancing my career were try and screen for SEAL Team 6 through Green Team, or explore my independence as a civilian. And so that was like my crossroads. But I had always wanted, realistically, like I grew up wanting to be a part of some special operations group, just because it was just so romanticized for me, just through
right.
film and some people I had met. And looking back now, it's like I was young, and so I was just trying to chase the dragon, trying to reach that ultimate goal of
Right.
doing the coolest thing, the highest risk thing with a group of guys to tell a story about it later. But now looking back, it's all of my memories are from the process, and never
Yeah.
like the outcome or like the game day thing or whatever. And yeah, I feel like I was able to learn early on and make the decision for myself. Like I started to see, and no knock on the community at all. There's still like the brotherhood is very rich in the community, and but aside from that, as far as like the way that the big Navy was changing while I was in, there was a shift in the tide as far as like coming out of this era of heavy combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, kind of moving into this like 90s era of doing more training and partner relationships overseas and stuff. And other than that, there was like quite a few opportunities that we had to go do something good and use our training and skills to go achieve something that we thought was necessary. And it was always tossed around like a political football. And so once I was wise enough to see that, I just started to lose passion for it. And if anything, the only thing keeping me in was just being around like my best friends and doing the job and training. And it gave me a huge opportunity to explore the world and exchange relationships and tactics and everything with like foreign forces, which was what led me into saunas in the first place, like working with the Finnish Jaegers, seeing how important like saunas were to them. That was the first thing that sparked heat therapy for me. Before that, it was just like something I did at Lifetime Fitness at the end of a workout. Like my buddies and I, like after high school, we'd work out and then we'd go do like a set of crunches, thinking that would burn off our belly fat or whatever. Like working with like the Finnish Jaegers and groups in Scandinavia and Europe, it really opened the doors for me as far as what heat therapy was, what cold therapy was at like a tactical, like operational level, and how they invested in it. Yes, it was like a huge part of their culture, but how their leadership invested in heat therapy as like an operational readiness thing. Like they would travel with saunas, like it was a huge part of their recovery and everything. And like our Western culture is still just catching up from hundreds of years of data and research and practice. And once I started using it at that level, like where it's like the 20 to 30 minute sessions at 220 degrees, I realized the mental benefits and the physical benefits and became addicted to it, especially on when I got out and was having the crisis of trying to find who I was and what I was going to do next. That really helped me battle through like depression, anxiety, and physical recovery just from being physically worked in the military. And everywhere I went, I was just looking for one, and that is what caused me to build my own out of necessity. And then realizing the gap and the lack of education. This was earlier on 2017. And so that's what got me into it. And that kind of paired with everything that I was trying to do creatively and the health and wellness space as a whole and how awesome it is and how much purpose is behind it. And just knowing for myself, like using heat therapy for myself and how much it's changed my life. And I've always been like up on supplements and biohacking and little tweaks here and there to like fine tune the sales, but nothing, I'm obviously biased because I have this company, but nothing is as impactful as heat therapy. Like your first night's sleep. I love getting that text from a customer. It's just did my first session, first night's sleep. What the hell was I doing before? It's so impactful. And so it's so easy to build something like this and get behind it because of how effective it is. And yeah.
You've sold me. It's in my shopping cart right now. I just wanted to ask you about the MCT oil coating before I ordered. The thing I like about your product is there's really no glass. It's very functional. If you guys don't know, go to the website, thehotboxsauna.com. And it's almost like a really big, this is not a flattering way to describe it, but it's like a really big coffin almost where you get in.
Yeah.
Super functional. It's very well insulated. Just now that I've seen your design and I look at the Costco ones with those glass doors with the cracks in them, it just doesn't make any sense to heat up such a large space with glass when you can just get in a tiny little like coffin type thing, and it probably uses a third of the electricity and takes up a third of the space and just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, we like to call it a cockpit.
I love it.
It's more of a cockpit style lid and space, but it is funny. We do get people joking around how it's a coffin, and in that case, it's a 2-for-1 special, so you can take it in your next life.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, before we go,
oh, sorry,
go ahead.
No, I just meant like the size thing that you had mentioned. There's a lot of wasted energy in stall saunas just because a lot of heat goes into the ceiling, and so that was like a huge part of the form factor. Like the design changed so much. Like it was a stall, it was something that was a little bit more flat, and just seeing what was most effective for the human body to sit in, what temperature, what time, and just trying to really focus on performance was everything that we had first. And then we had to dial up the sexiness as it started to evolve and the functionality of it. But it's always been very important for us to keep the form factor low in order for the heat to be fully circulated throughout your body. And so that was a big part of it, but also to hit high temperatures quickly. And it's really just eventually like I want a group sauna for me and my family to share our weekends together as like a ritual thing. Like my buddy has a wood fire sauna that we use all the time in Reno, and it's awesome because it's like our ritual. We all get in there and hang out, and it's a good way to just have a conversation in a stressed environment. But this is like the daily driver, so this is something that keeps you consistent, and that was our main focus.
And the thing I like is the normal, you have an extra large one, but the normal size can fit up to 6'3". I'm 6'3". And I think I told you on our call, like I measured my butt to the top of my head, that like distance, and it's like just perfect to fit in the normal size one. So I'm excited because there's not a lot of wasted space. Like you're not heating up air that you don't need versus the tall normal sauna. You're heating up so much space that you don't actually need to heat up. So it makes sense. Before we go, do two things for us. First thing, can you, for the listeners who have sauna and cold plunge, or maybe have access to one, can you give us like your preferred regimen in terms of switching between the two? And then also, secondly, point us in the right direction of how to get a hold of you or your team, and then anything you want to promote, any plugs you want to make.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. As far as my regimen, I do the sauna at least 5 times a week. And so my wife and I have it on a schedule. So we have our Wi-Fi capability app that can trigger the sauna. We have it on from 5 to 7 every night. So we have that window of opportunity. It's already preheated for us. And so it makes the resistance even lower. That's the idea, is to make everything very easy. But we have it right in front of our front door, basically, like in our living room. And so we catch it every day on the way out. And so that's the idea is consistency. Like without it, all of the trendy health data doesn't matter at all. And just keeping that discipline and having the least path to resistance to the sauna is really key. But aside from that, like as far as contrast therapy, I actually haven't done it in a while, but I do love it. And it was something that I would do like on the weekends. I would I have a trough. I just fill it full of ice, and then I would do like the Andrew Huberman protocol for HGH. And it's a game changer. Like doing the full gambit of contrast therapies is huge and it feels really good. But other than that, like I have a trough because I've had cold plunges, I've had chillers. I've had just spotty success with them. Most of them fail. And so now I just keep it, like if anything, I'll buy a bunch of ice on the weekend and do the protocol in and out of the sauna.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just bought Desert Plunge in case you're looking for good company. You can do it on your own. You could buy a Grizzly on your own and save $1,000, but I'd rather pay a premium to have it done for me.
I agree.
Okay, and then secondly,
Desert Plunge.
Oh, them.
He reached out actually a couple weeks ago. We were thinking about doing some sort of giveaway, some sort of collaboration, but they just seem like really good folks, and what they have makes sense. A Grizzly cooler, those things are top notch, very beefy, very well insulated, has a lid on it. But I'm with you, like there's a lot more that meets the eye with like how much is involved with installing those pumps and all the fittings and drilling holes and stuff. So you end up spending more time and money doing it yourself, honestly. So it looks simple. It looks like if you are handy and you want to save a couple bucks, for sure, go do it yourself. But I'm with you, like you might as well just buy it from a good company that can support you or whatever. So
yeah, it saves me a day of frustration and trips to Home Depot and just feeling annoyed.
Yeah.
So it's peace of mind. How can people get a hold of you or your team, and then anything special you guys are working on that you want to tell everyone about?
The hotboxsauna.com or just hotboxsauna.com. We ended up just getting both domains. That's our website, and it's just got the tree of X, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. We do more like raw behind the scenes stuff, longer format on YouTube if you want to go see the shop and the build and the process and the people behind it. That's usually on YouTube. And then our Instagram is like the most lively. That's where all the fun is had. We just have some really good ambassadors and nonprofits that we're partnered with that give us a lot of content while we all share the space together. And that's the only way that we offer any sort of savings is through them. So we're partnered with an adaptive training nonprofit. It's called Kaizen. It's here out of Virginia Beach. They're awesome people. We're doing a lot of studies right now on some of their athletes that are paralyzed, like in and out of the sauna. We're doing something with Penn State right now just to see the effects of that, because that's something it hasn't been studied as much as we can right now with this sauna. And other than that, we're partnered with a veteran nonprofit. It's called Simper Stronger. Rebecca and Joel, they're a married couple, and they help veterans just get back into wellness, whether it's mental, physical, and then eventually become leaders in the wellness space, which is something that we always like to promote. I think too often veterans are quick to receive a handout, or there's like this victim mentality around veterans where I think it should be the complete opposite. They should be leaders in the space of health and wellness or youth organizations or just bettering this country all around. Changing that mindset is what, when we hire veterans in the shop space, that's something that we always like to encourage, is just to become a better person and then lead others and then be a man of service, man or woman of service again. And so those are two really cool organizations. Other than that, we have a couple ambassadors that are long distance runners, and Justin Flores, more recently, he's like the judo master. He actually trains SEAL teams on the West Coast. Super cool guy, awesome. But that's really it. Like, we don't run any sales or anything like that for a whole host of reasons, but really so that we can funnel the sales. If people want to save a couple extra dollars on the sauna, they can support our nonprofits and our ambassadors, and that's how you go through their platforms to receive any type of savings. And so that's really the only shout out I can think of. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. It's fun to meet you on camera, and we'll be in touch. And once I get my sauna installed, I'll send you a photo and you can see my wellness. What did you say? Wellness compound?
Wellness compound, yeah. I think it's important for people to have, especially, I don't think we'll experience another COVID, knock on wood, but it's nice to build out your little compound for all things that serve you. And so sauna is obviously on the top of my list, but also a cooling mattress. Like, my wife and I invested in 8 Sleep 3-4 years ago, and it completely changed my sleep. And then obviously lift heavy weights, run trails, long distances, and that's pretty much it. So we got a cool thing going on there.
Yeah, I get myself permission. If we're willing to buy nice cars and motorcycles as toys, like, you can drop $15,000 on your wellness compound, and it's going to be the best money you've ever spent. And I think Brady's product is a core pillar of that setup. And so support him, support his mission, and just feel good every night. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. We'll help support you too, man. We'd love to just share your podcast and everything that you do too.
Sure.
So I really appreciate this. It was nice talking to you.
Yep. I love it. All right. Take care.
See you. Bye.
Bye. All right. That's it for today. I hope this conversation got you thinking and maybe even questioning a few things. And that's the point. This isn't about having all the answers. It's about figuring it out together. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want to keep exploring these ideas, make sure to subscribe and follow me over at theothersideofenough.com. Let's keep the conversation going and see you next time.